After creating our value map, where we listed all those ideas that we have to to address the user's problem, to give them a good experience. So now it's the time to see how user would interact with our system to get their job done. Okay, so this would be uh, like the beginning of our application design. Okay, after listening that those ideas basically. So here I'm gonna talk about user experience to begin with, and then I'm gonna talk about the user workflow at the end, like how user workflow could support the user experience. But let's start with this idea of like process of user experience design. Okay, user experience is a process in which meaning and relevant experience are created for the users of the product. Okay, so these aspects could be different things like from branding, design, usability, functionality, information architecture, navigation, um, and tons of interaction, tons of other things that are kind of related to user experience design, like how user experience the product, for example, solve the problem and everything like related to that. Okay, so um, to begin with this kind of process of understanding user experience, okay, we need to talk about or think of again those three things that we started our project with. Yes, who's the user, what's their problem or main problem, and what would be our value proposition, what would be our solution or product more specifically here. Okay, so who's the user? For having a good user experience design, we need to understand the user, their characteristics, their interest, their everything about the user, the way that they do the job, their beliefs, their attitude, behavioral kind of issue, everything related to the user. Okay, what's their problem? All the details of the problem. Okay, so here we are again talking about these three things that we started the project from. But these are not assumptions anymore. These are all very well known to us because we've done research. We've discovered every details of all these things. So now we should be able to list them all. We should target the right user group with the right characteristics. We know what's the problem, the details of the problem, and we know what are those services and products and features that we want to offer to these guys. Okay, so that's what user experience about. Okay, user experience want to know all these things and come up with ideas, solution to solve, and those things basically. Okay, this is from one of my students, former students, working on a kitchen kind of product. Okay, so what he did was listing all the good experiences and bad experiences that would happen in a kitchen environment, smelling, bad smells, washing by hands, everything, burnt food. So these could be all bad experiences that are definitely possible in a kitchen environment. And these are good experiences that the users would do the jobs, all those tasks. But what we need to do is to focus on those good experiences that are relevant to our project and focus on the bad experiences as well. All those things that are relevant to our project. What we need to do, we had bad experiences as our pains. So we designed pain relievers, or we thought about pain relievers. We had good experiences as our gains. So we came up with some solutions or ideas to offer those good experiences to our users. So that's a process that we already started working on those ideas and solutions. Okay, so here these would help us a lot having that understanding. Okay, so bad experiences should be avoided, good experiences should be created. Okay, so we try to address them and to eliminate all bad experiences that are relevant to our project. We cannot solve all the worst problem, but at least we can solve those that are relevant to our project. So we create much more value than other competitors. Difficult navigation, vague information, confusing direction, inflated costs. So all these could be bad experiences of a kind of app that's not been designed properly. Okay, so these are the other things that we need to avoid. But let me talk a little bit about why UX matters. Okay, so user experience is very important because that, first of all, it increases the user satisfaction. Happier user, more money, more business value, more user value, more business value. We've talked about this before. So how we can make our users happy through offering a good user experience to make them like more satisfied with the solution that we are offering. The other thing is that it improved the good user experience, improves the engagement and efficiency. Like users can do their jobs much faster with fewer clicks. That's a good experience. Okay, more engagement would be there. Like user would use the product in a longer run and would return and use it more. Like would use the product more frequently and in a longer period of time. So that kind of engagement would be a result of user experience design. Okay, customer retention, like referring users and introducing the product to other users even. So those are all would be a result of good user experience. Increased conversion, like that's the goal of all e-commerce website. Okay, you want to make like users visiting basically users into customers. So that's very important. Like that's the value conversion basically. That's how that's where user value would be converted into business value. Okay, better accessibility. Like 20% of the population, they need some kind of accessibility design. Okay, so better UX means that those requirements are already considered and integrated into our solution. Okay, so 20% of the market is a big chunk that nobody want to just ignore. Okay, so that's also very important. It could be achieved through a good user experience and competitive advantage. Like that's the whole goal. Like what we want to do is that, okay, nowadays everybody's competing on user experience, like because the technologies are already there. ChatGPT, for example, Midjourney. These are the solutions that, for example, nowadays lots of companies are integrating their solution into their apps, but user experience are totally different. Like some of them have better user experience, some of them worse. So users most probably would use those products with a better user experience. The same solution in backend, like everything works based on the same processing engine, same inference engine, but the user experience defines which product is much more successful here. Okay, so that could be considered as a kind of competitive advantage as well. Brand loyalty is an issue that if the user is happy with one of your product, they most probably would go and use the second one as well, the other products that you are creating as well. So that brand loyalty would be another thing that could be achieved through UX design. Reduce development costs. If something is designed properly, like based on the kind of user experience, we must probably have some kind of component-based, building block-based design, and that would help like reusable components because you want to have consistency through your design. That's why you use same components, because that's the user would know based on their mental model how to use that component. So that's why the development cost would be reduced as well, because the same component would be reused in different places of this product. So that could help tons of saving from this kind of development perspective. Reduce support costs. If you address most of your users' requirement through your design, interaction, clicking, everything, then why users should call the call center? Okay, so that would reduce the support cost, and better analytics, like improving all those features, better that user experience could bring this kind of understandability there. Okay, so when users are facing something that's not overwhelming, easy to use, easy to understand, so it increases this kind of analytics as well. So those are all these things that we can achieve through a good user experience design. But let's stop talking about user experience here and focus more on the key experience of your product. Okay, so when you are designing something, you want to create a better user experience. But that experience has been most probably incorporated into your thinking system, into your solution through kind of something that we call competitive edge or value propositions. Okay, so what's the main feature set of your design? Okay, for example, we talked about Airbnb, and there what I mentioned is that the competitive edge of the Airbnb, or key experience of Airbnb, was to build that trust, because before that user would go, for example, Craigslist, and they couldn't trust the guy who's posting, so everything would be some kind of scary there. But Airbnb came with review, rating, photos, everything's validated, so users could trust the system. So that was the key experience of the basically Airbnb right in the beginning. Okay, of course it was like location-based kind of search, like tons of other features like money transaction, like communication with the host, and tons of other things. But those were and are the secondary features. They are not key experience of the user. So what we need to do, like we need to begin our project with that key experience, that competitive edge, that main value proposition of our solution, what help us to beat all our competitors. That's our key experience. Okay, an example from this book is here. Like if you remember, that was a wedding venue example, like a result set of options showing affordable yet amazing wedding venues. So that's the first thing that they want to target. Okay, a turnkey solution option of a wedding package that includes a short list of vendors for the food, flowers, valet parking, and other things. Okay, so set of features. Right? They might have tons of other features in mind, tons of other solutions, but they started small, from the core of their solution, the core of the product, the competitive edge. That's what we need to do here as well. We need to find our key experience, define it properly, and then we need to try to create our user workflow. Okay, what's user workflow? And what we do before creating our user workflow, we come up with a scenario. Like what happens in an ideal world? What would be those steps of interaction that solve the user's problem in the most easiest way? Okay, all those would be steps of user system interaction. Okay, so if users and system could interact in fewer steps, much easier to use, understand, everything, usability, everything would be there. So that would be the user workflow that we want to start from. Okay, so before getting to the user workflow, we start specifying what would be the key experience, then we break it down into steps, and then based on that we create our user workflow, like all those steps with some decision nodes or condition nodes and everything, that the relations or sequence of those activities, user, system, interaction or user. Here, for example, the example that I have is, I'm not going to explain the details, but here, for example, there are 3 users involved in this user workflow. For some other cases, that might be only 1 user is involved, like user steps of the user interacting with the system. But here it's a little bit different. We have technicians, we have maintenance manager, and we have HR. Okay, so all these steps would be done after each other. Like technician does something, manager should approve it, and then if it's approved, goes to some, different scenarios, different like decision or condition nodes. Okay, so so that's what we need to create to begin with. Like, we map our users workflow the best way that we can imagine that users interact with the system and get the job done. Okay, we map it in a kind of sequence of actions, and then based on that we start creating our architecture, our system architecture. So we start from the operational perspective. What would be that operational or functional perspective of our system, the user workflow, basically. And that's how we start solving the problem. Later, I'm going to talk about the details, like how these steps should be converted into for example, wireframes and all those things. But for now, let's focus only on the user workflow. What would be those actions that users need to go through to get the job